few years back when we first did our remote office work from home solution, and based on what a lot of our friends and business partners are telling us now, the biggest lie is that somehow not planning saves you time in the long run. But the reality is that leads to three common mistakes. The first is what I call location, location, location. And it's about where you store all the content. And fundamentally, you've got really two types of content if you want to boil it down. You've got evergreen content, which essentially is policies, procedures, specs, things that live on or are modified over a period of time. And then you've got what I call water cooler content, which replaces a lot of the natural conversation you have around the water cooler or just dropping into people's offices in a traditional office environment. That stuff tends to be oriented towards short-term problem solving, doing something right now, accomplishing a task, and that kind of content doesn't necessarily need to live on. One of the challenges is organizations confuse those things, and they're saving stuff in wikis and in OneDrive or Dropbox and in chat sessions and all those types of things, and people really struggle trying to find that content. So that's the first complaint that we hear. The second challenge that comes up is people, permissions, and team structures. And if you really do a remote office environment or work from home solution well, you have to plan that sort of thing out, because you don't want, for example, your whole team accessing HR files. You don't need people seeing a lot of information that's not relevant to them. And so grouping those teams is not just a function of controlling data and adding security, it's also just a function of helping people focus. So that stuff needs to be planned out, and you can imagine the numbers of different teams and groups that can occur in a even smaller mid-sized company. And the third thing is the device factor, right? If you're trying to open a 50-column spreadsheet in Excel on an iPhone, you're going to have a problem with that. If you're trying to do heavy data input on anything less than this with a keyboard, you're going to struggle with that. And if you're trying to do things like video editing where we have multiple monitors, again, it helps to know the bandwidth and the equipment requirements. And so we plan all those things out. If you take a look down below and click on the next video, we'll talk about how we solve those challenges.